Today is September 11th, and for those of you who don't know, my dad was a captain in the fire department during 9/11. He is retired now. I'm so blessed to have my dad still with us, but it's still a very somber day. This video is not going to be about 9/11. I'm just setting the tone. This morning I logged on Twitter, and the first few tweets that I read were like conspiracy theories. There was like bullshit imagery, disrespectful opinions about 9/11. I believe in freedom of speech. If you want to talk about your conspiracy theories, post about things that you believe, I believe that you have the right to. The thing that bothered me is just it felt so disrespectful. People died today. And, you know, there's 364 other days of the year where you can talk about your conspiracy theories. But to someone who passed away in 9/11, to someone who is sick as a result of their illnesses that they acquired at 9/11, to someone who has died since 9/11, you know, coming from a fire department family, it's a family. My dad was a firefighter. I have uncles that were firefighters. I have cousins that are firefighters. My grandfather was a firefighter. It's a family thing. Some people lost not only their father, but they also lost their brother. It just felt so disrespectful for people to be online angry instead of respecting the lives that were lost. Today is about honoring the people that were lost, not about talking about why they lost it or who was the cause of why those people died or any of the other things that happened thereafter. I'm very passionate about what has happened as a result of 9/11. I even spoke about it in another video. I'm going to link it up here. But today's just not the day. Just because that's how I feel doesn't mean that that's how everyone else feels. Went online and then I'm like, I gotta get the fuck off of here. And I logged right back off. Even though I had logged off, I was still starting to ruminate in my negative thoughts. And how could they do this? Why would he say this? Why would she post this? It's only 8 o'clock in the morning. How can you be so angry at 8 o'clock in the morning? And now I'm angry at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I was just spiraling into a bunch of negative thoughts. And how do you stop a negative thought pattern? How do you stop adding to a negative thought pattern? When these negative thoughts are spiraling, when they're spinning, they're very hard to stop. And it's very easy to fall into and just engage with the negativity and become angrier and become more hostile and become a victim. And now I'm a victim of someone posting something to a public forum and I'm feeling bad for myself. None of it was good. And I was like, I need to put a stop to this negative thought pattern. How do I stop this thought pattern? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Jackie and I help people to live their best life, to create a life that looks good on the outside, but more importantly, feels good on the inside. When it comes to negative thoughts, man, they get the best of us, don't they? There's got to be some science about why it's so much easier to fall into just a spiral of negative thoughts than it is to fall into a spiral of positive thoughts. Honoring those thoughts, honoring those feelings is very important, but when they aren't serving you, when they're kind of purposeless, like me being angry about someone posting something on social media that is their right to post on social media, even if I don't agree with it, how do we stop that? The only way to stop a negative thought pattern and to stop negative thoughts is with positive action. Don't get me wrong, sometimes I'm able to stop the negative thoughts and say, hey, this thought doesn't serve me, and then to pull in the positive thoughts. That was not the case for me this morning. I knew that if I sat in those negative thoughts that I was just going to continue, it would have ruined my day, it would have pulled me down for the whole day, and I did not want to let that one little thing that happened this morning and those thoughts that grew out of that one little thing that happened this morning grow into a bunch of weeds that took over my day, because sometimes those negative thoughts can come in, take over your day, they ruin your day, but then they spread very quickly. And the next thing you know, it's been 5 days, now it's a week, now it's 2 weeks, now it's a full-on depression, all from something that we could have taken a hold of and reined it in from the beginning. And it's a lot easier said than done, especially when it's coming to the thoughts. It's not as easy to recognize a negative thought and to replace it with a positive thought, but what it is easy to do is to stop a negative thought pattern with positive action. And that's exactly what I did. I chose to get my stuff together and go to the gym. Took 2 back-to-back yoga classes this morning. One of them was in a heated class. I needed to sweat. I needed to move my body. I needed to put positive action into my negative thought patterns, and it worked. I feel great. I recognize where I was causing my own suffering. I was mad at things that I shouldn't have been mad at. It is an emotional day, and I took it to an extreme with my emotion. Now, when I think about where I have been in the past with negative thought patterns, I'm often feeding my negative thought patterns with negative actions. Most often I am laying in bed, which is not necessarily negative, but it's also not positive. If I'm not sick or sleeping, there's really no need for me to be lounging in my bed, not moving my body. Our bodies want to move, our bodies want to move energy around, but if I'm having negative thoughts, then I'm starting to create negative energy, and if I'm just laying in bed, then I'm not doing anything positive with my negative thoughts and my negative energies. I'm just stewing in it. I'm laying in bed, allowing it to take over me. Negative action that I often find myself doing when I'm in negative thoughts is scrolling. There's like hundreds, if not thousands of studies that say social media, scrolling, blue light, this is all bad for us. It's bad for our mental health. It's bad for our physical health. It is not a positive action by any means. It is a negative action. Unfortunately, in the case of negative thoughts and negative actions, when you add a negative and a negative, you're not getting a positive. You're just getting a ton more negativity. And that's where it can spiral. And once it spirals, it's a lot harder to take control over. Now, for me, going to the gym just made sense. Let's move this around. Let's get out of my head. When I'm in yoga, I'm very much focusing on my breath. It is very hard to ruminate on thoughts when you're focusing on your breath. And speaking of breath, that is a positive action. When it comes to breath work, that is a really great positive action to meet your negative thought with, especially if you don't feel like moving. Very often when we're in those negative thoughts, like I said, I hit the bed, I'm laying in bed, I'm not doing anything. We don't have a ton of physical energy to move with. If that's where you are with your negative thoughts, the breath is a great positive way to stop your negative thoughts, because when you focus on your breath, you cannot focus on anything else. What that looks like is just counting your inhales and counting your exhales. It's just as simple as that's it. That's it. All I did was count. I counted in for 4, I counted out for 4. And while I was breathing in, I'm 1, 2, 3, 4. And when I'm breathing out, I'm 4, 3, 2, 1. And when you're focusing on matching your breath with your count, it's very hard to focus on anything else. It's a great way to bring yourself back to your body. It's a great way to meet that negative thought pattern with a positive action. Again, as I mentioned, for me, I had to get to yoga. Physical movement is a great way to meet a negative thought pattern with a positive action. If you are practicing some type of yoga or even strength training, you have to be present with your breath while you're working out for an effective workout. It's a great way to meet your negative thought patterns with positive action. Some other positive actions that you might want to consider when you're ruminating in your negative thoughts might be something as simple as reading. Because now if you're reading the story, you're reading the book, you're reading whatever it is, and you're present with those words. And if you're present with those words in that book, you can't be present with your negative thoughts in your head. One of my favorite positive actions for negative thinking is affirmations. I love an affirmation practice. I'm going to link an article in the description of this video where I describe a little bit more about positive affirmations, as well as some of my favorite positive affirmations. Repeating affirmations and focusing on the words that you are reading or writing or reciting is going to stop that negative thought pattern. Some other positive actions you might want to consider if you are lost in a negative thought pattern might be something like going outside for a walk. Maybe you want to focus on counting colors, and you go outside and you see all the different colors of nature, and you see a green tree, you see a purple flower. Choosing something to focus on while you're on that walk will help you to focus on that and to defocus from your negative thought. Some form of a creative pursuit is another great positive action to spin out of some negative thoughts. Maybe you like to crochet. For me, I really like to paint. You can also do something like color by numbers, or even just drawing or doodling. Writing is another positive action to meet your negative thoughts with. You can journal how you're feeling. You can get them out, because when they are in our head, we are rolling with them. They are continuously going. But when we get them out, they go out. I really believe that positive action is the #1 way to stop negative thinking, to stop negative thought patterns, to pull you out of a negative spiral. We can't meet negativity with negativity and expect to feel better, expect to think better. If we're eating crap, if we're consuming crap, whether it's what we're watching, what we're scrolling and reading, adding more crap into our crappy thoughts, we can't expect anything to change. If we want to feel better and we want to think better, we have to take positive action. I'd love to hear what some of your positive actions are, or maybe some of the ways that you have met negative thoughts and what some of the things that work for you. Drop it below in the comments. I would love to chat with you. Thank you so much for coming back to my channel. Again, my name is Jackie, and I help people create a life that looks good on the outside. It's a life you want to Instagram, but more importantly, it doesn't just look good on the outside, it feels good on the inside. Because what's the point of having an Instagrammable life if you feel like shit? I make new videos every Monday and Friday, so don't forget to click subscribe, and I will see you at the end of the week.